Was Spanish flu linked to World War One?
Absolutely. This was a complete disaster and killed far more people, far more troops than actually the war itself did. And of course spread around the world after the First World War, killing between 20 and 40 million people.
Goodness.
So this is still cited as the biggest flu epidemic, probably more devastating than the Black Death several centuries before, and seems to be fairly closely linked with wrapping up at the end of the war in Europe.
Can you explain how it was linked to the military situation?
Well, I think this is a really good example of an infection that spread by movement of people and then putting lots of people together from different places and then dispersing them. So it was called the Spanish flu because it first really emerged in the Spanish theatre of war in about May, spring of 1918. We think that this was a new mutated flu virus, probably from China. How it got to Europe we don't know. But actually the first clues came before Spain, and there were the outbreaks in recruitment camps in the USA, in Kansas and other places, and people didn't take too much notice of it then. But what happened later in that year was, as the war was winding down, a lot of casualties were being moved into huge clearing stations, and from there to absolutely enormous hospital camps. And many of those people stayed for quite some months before they moved back to their various countries. Flu was taken into those hospitals and decimated patients and staff alike. And of course people going back from those hospitals took it back to their other countries. And then it rolled on. The mortality in young people was enormous. Usually flu is very bad for old people, especially if they have other problems. In this case it was killing predominantly 20 to 40-year-olds. And that's been a concern in some of the other kinds of flu outbreaks we've had more recently. And we're still looking back to that epidemic of 1918 to 1919. And there are some really astonishing graphs of mortality of the American troops going up 4 to 5-fold in 1 month alone, October 1918.
Goodness.